Good day, everyone. We are the last group presenter for this midterm, and we will be reporting on the life of Rizal in Hong Kong, his exile in Dapitan, the trial, until the time of his death. So let us start with when he was an ophthalmic surgeon in Hong Kong in 1891 to 1892. Rizal lived in Hong Kong from November 1891 to June 1892. He left the place of Europe because he has two reasons. First is life was unbearable in Europe because of his political differences with Marcelo H. del Pilar and other Filipinos in Spain. Second is to be near his idolized Philippines and family. Before sailing for Hong Kong, he notified del Pilar that he was retiring from the political arena in Spain in order to preserve unity among the compatriots, and that despite their parting of ways, he had the highest regard for him. Before leaving Europe, in October 3, 1891, 2 weeks after the publication of El Filibusterismo, Rizal left Ghent for Paris. He said goodbye to the Lunas, the Pardo de Taveras, the Venturas, and other friends. And then Rizal proceeded by train to Marcellus. Then October 18, 1891, Rizal boarded the steamer Melbourne bound for Hong Kong, and he brought with him a letter of recommendation by Juan Luna for Manuel Camus, a compatriot living in Singapore. And in his travel, he met Father Fox, a tireless Rizal, and Rizal enjoyed playing chess, and he even described him as a fine fellow, father without pride and malice. In November 20, 1891, Rizal arrived in Hong Kong. He was welcomed by the Filipino residents, especially his old friend Jose Maria Basa, and he resided at number 5D Aguilar Street, number 2, Rid Nazela Terrace, where he also opened his medical clinic. Then in December 1, 1881, Rizal wrote to his parents asking permission to return home. On the same date, Hidalgo, his brother-in-law, sent him a letter relating the sad news of the deportation of 25 persons from Calamba, including his father, Neneng Sisa, Lucia, Pasiano, and the rest of them. Before Christmas of 1891, Rizal was gladdened by the arrival of his father, brother, and Silvestre Osvaldo, or your brother-in-law, in Hong Kong. Not long afterwards, his mother and sisters, Lucia, Josefa, and Trinidad, also arrived. Rizal's mother was then 65 years old and was almost blind, suffered Spanish brutality and injustice in 1890, and was arrested on the flimsy charge that she was not using her surname Realunda, and despite her advanced age and blindness, she was forced to walk from Calamba to Santa Cruz. And fortunately, the Spanish governor of Laguna pitied her and kindly set her free. The Christmas of 1881 in Hong Kong was one of the happiest Yuletide celebrations in Rizal's life, for he had a family reunion. Then in January 31, 1881, Rizal wrote to Blumentritt, recounting pleasant life in Hong Kong. And now, let's talk about on the ophthalmic surgeon in Hong Kong. Rizal practiced medicine in order to earn a living. This Dr. Lorenzo Marquez, a Portuguese physician, became Rizal's friend and admirer, and helped Rizal build a wide clientele. Dr. Rizal became a successful and well-known medical practitioner in the British colony and had many patients, British, Chinese, Portuguese, and Americans. And Rizal successfully operated in his mother's left eye so that she was able to read and write again. During his stay in Hong Kong, he proposed a project which named Borneo Colonization Project. In the face of the bleak outlook of the Calamba folks under Governor Valeriano Weyler's terroristic regime, Rizal conceived the establishment of a Filipino colony in North Borneo, or Sabah. He proposed settlement in Borneo and therefore made up his mind to visit his home once more. He still cherished the plan of transferring those of his relatives and friends who were homeless through the land troubles or discontented with their future in the Philippines to the district offered to him by the British North Borneo Company. He planned to move the landless Filipino families to the rich British-owned island and carve out of its virgin wilderness a new Calamba. In March 7, 1892, Rizal went to Sandakan on board ship Menon to negotiate with the British colonies. He looked over the land up to the Bingcoca River in Marado Bay. The British authorities were willing to give the Filipino colonists 100,000 acres of land, a beautiful harbor, and a good government for 999 years, and it is free of all charges. Rizal's friends in Europe, Juan Antonio Luna, Lupis Jaina Blumentritt, and Dr. Bautista Len, enthusiastically endorsed his project. When Dr. Rizal back in Hong Kong on April 20, 1892, one of Rizal's brothers-in-law, Hidalgo the Brave Batangueño, objected to the colonization project. Governor Weyler was relieved of his gubernatorial office, and new Governor-General Hilogio Dispohol, in the belief that Governor Dispohol was sincere in his beautiful promises. Rizal sent him a letter of felicitation and offering his cooperation. The Governor-General did not even acknowledge receipt of his letter. Rizal wrote his letter to Governor Dispohol on December 23, 1891, and his second letter dated March 21, 1892, and gave it to the ship captain to be sure it would reach Governor Dispohol's hands. Once more, Dispohol did not give Rizal the courtesy of reply. Instead, he notified the Spanish Consul General in Hong Kong to tell Rizal that he could not approve the Filipino immigration to Borneo, alleging that the Philippines lacked laborers and it was not very patriotic to go off and cultivate foreign soil. So the next one is the writings in Hong Kong. First, ang mga karapatan ng tao, which is a Tagalog translation of the rights of man proclaimed by the French Revolution in 1789. Second is a la Nación Española, or to the Spanish nation, which is an appeal to Spain to right the wrongs done to the Kalambatanans in 1891. Next one is mga kababayan, to my fellow men. The proclamation written in December 1891 explaining the Calamba agrarian situation 25. The next one is the Hong Kong Telegraph, which Rizal contributed articles to the British daily newspaper, and whose editor, Mr. Fraser Smith, was his friend. The copies of this newspaper entered the Philippines so that the Filipino people were able to read Rizal's articles. The vigilant Spanish censor soon discovered the spread of Rizal's side and immediately banned the Hong Kong newspapers. The fifth one is the Una a la Victoria Gaol, a visit to Victoria Gaol. Rizal wrote on March 2, 1892, an account of his visit to the colonial prison of Hong Kong. The next one is the colonization do British Borneo par de familias de Iles Philippines, means the colonization of British North Borneo by families from the Philippine Islands. This writing is same with the article entitled Proyecto de Colonización del British North Borneo por los Filipinos, or Project of the Colonization of British North Borneo by the Filipinos. And the next one is the La Mano Roja, or the Red Hand. Rizal wrote in June 1892, which was printed in sheet from in Hong Kong. So the last one is the Constitution of the La Liga Filipina, the most important writing made by Rizal during his Hong Kong sojourn, which was printed in Hong Kong 1892. To deceive the Spanish authorities, the printed copies carried the false information that the printing was done by the London Printing Press, number 25 Coolidge Street, London. And he met Domingo Franco, a friend of Rizal in Manila, whom the copies of the printed Liga Constitution were sent.
So this is a continuation of the life of Rizal in Hong Kong. The decision of return to Manila, May 1892, made up his mind to return to Manila. The decision was spurred by the following. Number 1 is to confer with the governor Dispohol regarding this Borneo colonization project. Number 2 is to establish the La Liga Filipina in Manila. Number 3 is to prove that Eduardo de Lete was wrong in attacking him in Madrid. Being comfortable and safe in Hong Kong, had abandoned the country's coast. So during June 20, 1892, Rizal wrote 2 letters, which he sealed inscribed to each envelope, to be opened after my death, and gave them to his friend Dr. Marquez for safety. So the first letter addressed to my parents, brethren, and friends, and the second letter address to the Filipinos. Then June 21, 1892, Rizal penned another letter in Hong Kong for Governor Dispuho. Incidentally, his third letter to that discourteous Spanish chief executive. Immediately after Rizal's departure from Hong Kong, the Spanish Consul General, who issued the government guarantee of safety, sent a telegram to Governor Dispuho that the victim is in the trap. On the same day, June 21, 1892, the secret case was filed in Manila against Rizal and his followers for anti-religious and anti-patriotic agitation. Luis de la Torre, secretary of Dispuho, ordered to find out if Rizal was naturalized as a German citizen. Second Homecoming and the La Liga Filipina. The battlefield is in the Philippines, he told countrymen in Europe. There is where we should meet, there we will help one another, there together we will suffer or triumph perhaps. Arrival in Manila with sister. June 26, 1892, Sunday at 12 noon, Rizal and his widowed sister Lucia, wife of late Mariano Herbosa, arrived in Manila. In the afternoon at 4 o'clock, he went to Malacanang Palace to seek audience with the Spanish Governor-General, General Eulogio Dispuol, Conde Caspi. June 27, 1892, at 6 p.m., Rizal boarded a train in Tutuban Station and visited his friends in Malolos, Bulacan, San Fernando, Pampanga, Tarlac, and Bacoor. So Rizal returned by train to Manila on the next day, June 28 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The La Liga Filipina. July 3, 1892, on the evening of Sunday, following his morning interview with Governor-General Dispoon, Rizal attended a meeting with patriots at the home of the Chinese-Filipino mestizo, Doroteo Ojonco, on Ilaya Street, Tondo, Manila. Rizal explained the objectives of the La Liga Filipina, a civic league of Filipinos which he desired to establish, and its role in the socio-economic life of the people. The officers of the new league were elected as follows: Ambrosio Salvador as president, Diodato Arellano as secretary, Bonifacio Arevalo as treasurer, and Agustin de la Rosa as fiscal, and they called it as Onus Instar Omnium, or one like all, the motto of the La Liga Filipina. So after they were able to form or create the La Liga Filipina, these are the duties of the Liga members. Number 1 is to obey the orders of the Supreme Council. Number 2 is to help in recruiting new members. Number 3, to keep in strictest secrecy the decision of the Liga authorities. Number 4, to have symbolic name which he cannot change until he becomes president of this council. Number 5, to report to the fiscal anything that he may hear which affect the Liga. Number 6 is to have well as benefits a good Filipino. And number 7 is to help fellow members in all ways. And lastly, Rizal was arrested and jailed in Fort Santiago. July 6, 1892, Wednesday, Rizal went to the Malacanang Palace to resume his series of interviews with Governor General. Then July 7, 1892, the Gaceta de Manila published the story of Rizal's arrest, which produced indignant commotion among the Filipino people, particularly the members of the newly organized Liga Filipina. The same issue of the Gaceta, July 7, 1892, contained Governor General Dispuhol's decree deporting Rizal to one of the island in the south. July 14, 1892, shortly after midnight, that is 12:30 a.m. to July 15, 1892, Rizal was brought under heavy guard to the steamer Cebu, which was sailing for Dapitan. This steamer under Captain Delgras departed at 1 a.m. July 15, sailing south, passing Mindoro and Panay and reaching Dapitan on Sunday. The 17th of July at 7 in the evening, Captain Ricardo Carnicero, Spanish commandant of Dapitan, whom Captain Delgras handed Rizal. So July 17, 1892 to July 31, Rizal began his exile in lonely Dapitan in a period of 4 years.
Exile in Dapitan 1892 to 1896. Rizal lived in exile far away in Dapitan. So Dapitan is the remote town in Mindanao which was under the jurisdiction of the missionary jurisdiction of the Jesuits from 1892 to 1896. So when Rizal is exiled in Dapitan, he practiced medicine, pursued his scientific studies, continued his artistic and literary works, widened his knowledge of languages, established a school for boys, promoted development projects, invented a wooden machine for making bricks, and engaged in farming and commerce. So this is what Jose Rizal did when he was exiled in Dapitan. So, beginning of exile in Dapitan. A steamer Cebu, is the ship which brought Jose Rizal from Jose Rizal to Dapitan while carrying the letter that Father Pablo Pastels gave to him to hand to Father Antonio Obach, which was the Jesuit parish priest of Dapitan. So, Father Pablo Pastel is the superior of the Jesuit society in the Philippines. And Captain Carnicero. So, Captain Carnicero is the is the commandant of the house, and the owner of the house where Jose Rizal lived during his exile. And Adon Ricardo Carnicero. So, he is the captain that Jose Rizal wrote a poem during his birthday. It was on August 26, 1892. 1892. And in September 21, the 1879 too, it was the mailboat Butuan approaching the town with colored pennants flying in the sea breeze. So, Butuan, the mailboat which was approaching in the Pitan, brought happy tidings that lottery ticket number 9736, which is jointly owned by Captain Carcinero, the captain who Jose Rizal wrote a poem, and Dr. Jose Rizal and Francis Equilor. So Francis Equilor is the Spanish resident of that Dipolog. Dipolog is the neighboring town of Dapitan. And he won, so the lottery ticket number 9736 won the second prize, which is 20,000 in the government-owned Manila lottery. So, when Jose Rizal, uh, uh, Rizal winning in the Manila lottery reveals an aspect of his lighter side. So, he had never drunk and never smoked, but he was a lottery addict. So, and this was his only vice, his hobby. So, during his exile in Dapitan, Rizal had a long scholarly debate with Father Pastels on religion, and in all his letters to Father Pastel, Rizal revealed his anti-Catholic ideas which he had acquired in Europe and embitterment at his persecution by the bad friars. So, according to Rizal, individual judgment is a gift from God, and everybody should use it like a lantern to show the way and the self-esteem. if moderated by judgment, saves man from unworthy acts. So, imitasyon di Cristo. So, in other language, it is called imitation of Christ. So, it is a famous Catholic book by it is a famous Catholic book which is written by Father Thomas Akimpes. So it was given by Father Pastel to Jose.
Antonio Miranda, a Dapitan merchant and a friend of Rizal, expressed Lardit disgust with the business deal. Miranda indiscreetly forwarded Lardit's letter to Rizal, which led him to flare up his anger and challenge Lardet to a duel. On March 30, 1893, Lardet wrote Rizal for apology, and the good relationship between them has been restored. Father Jose Viclara, the Cora of Dipolog. Father Francisco D. Paula Sanchez, Rizal's favorite teacher at Ateneo de Manila, and the only Spanish priest who defended Rizal's Noli Me Tangere in public. On November 3, 1893, Rizal encountered with the friar spy and posing as our relatives and secretly visited Rizal at his house on night. He introduced himself as Pablo Mercado. As a friend of relatives, showing a photo of Rizal and a pair of buttons with the initial P and M. As evidence of his kingship, he offered his service as a confidential carrier of Rizal's letters and a writing for Patriots and Manila. Captain Setjes succeeded Captain Carcinero on May 4, 1893. As a commandant of Dapitan, he ordered to arrest Pablo Mercado. As the investigation of Anastasio Adritico, he discovered the real name of Pablo Mercado, which is Florencio Nanaman. A native of Cagayan de Misamis, was hired by the Recollect friars to a secret mission in Dapitan. Governor General Blanco received the transcript of investigation and keep the documents as highly confidential. On December 20, 1893, Rizal wrote to Manuel T. Hidalgo telling about the spy against him. A physician in Dapitan. Rizal practiced a medicine in Dapitan where many of his patients were poor, so he gave them a free medicine. Rizal became interested in a local medicine and in the use of medicinal plants. August 1893, Rizal's mother and his sisters Maria arrived in Dapitan and lived with him for 1.5 years. And Rizal operated his mother's eye. And Rizal obtained the title of expert surveyor as Perito Agrimensor from the Ateneo Municipal. From his practical knowledge as agrimensor or surveyor, he widened his knowledge by reading engineering-related books. As a result, despite the inadequacy of tools at hand, he successfully provided a good water system in the province.
When Rizal arrived in Dapitan, he decided to improve it to the best of his God-given talents and to awaken the civic consciousness of its people. He has done a lot of significant things in his exile within the span of 4 years, and some of these are community projects for Dapitan. One of the most notable Rizal did in Dapitan is the Talisay water system, as he is an expert surveyor that he got at Ateneo in Dapitan. He made a dam and an aqueduct to give a year-round water supply for his farm and household needs. He also equipped the town with its lighting system that consisted of coconut oil lamps placed in the dark streets of Dapitan, as well as remodeled the town plaza to enhance its beauty. While in exile, Rizal had the opportunity to put into practice its educational ideas. In 1893, he established a school which lasted until the end of his exile in July 1896. Rizal taught his boys reading, writing, languages in Spanish and English, geography, history, mathematics concerning arithmetic and geometry, industrial work, nature study, morals, and gymnastics. He also trained his students on how to collect specimens of plants and animals, to love and to behave like men. Rizal also wrote a poem in honor to Talisay and for his pupils to sing, which he titled Himno a Talisay or Hymn to Talisay. Rizal by this time would also rank with the world's great linguist, as he knew 22 languages. Bisayan, Subanon, and Malay are the three languages he studied during his exile. Rizal continued his artistic pursuits in Dapitan. Rizal made sketches of persons and things that attracted him while he was in exile. He also made sculptures such as bust of Father Gerico, one of his Ateneo professors, a statue of a girl called the Dapitan Girl, a wood carving of his wife Josephine Bracken, and a bust of Saint Paul which he gave to Father Pastels. In Dapitan, Rizal devoted much of his time to agriculture. Rizal introduced modern methods of agriculture which he had observed in Europe and America. He encouraged the Dapitan farmers to discard their primitive system of tillage and adopt the modern agricultural methods. Rizal also engaged in business in partnership with Ramon Carrion, a Dapitan merchant. He made profitable business ventures in fishing, copra, and hemp industries. Also, in May 14, 1893, Rizal formed a business partnership with Ramon Carrion in lime manufacturing. Already as brilliant as Rizal, he is also known for his inventive ability. Rizal invented a cigarette lighter which he sent as a gift to Blumentritt. He called it Sulpukan. This unique cigarette lighter was made of wood. Its mechanism, said Rizal, is based on the principle of compressed air. He also invented a wooden machine for making bricks. Rizal wrote a beautiful 120-line poem about his serene life as an exile in Dapitan, which he titled Mi Retiro or My Retreat. He sent it to her mother on October 22, 1895, which acclaimed by literary critics as one of the best penned by Rizal.
Good day, everyone. The last homecoming and trial of Rizal, yearly in 1896. Rizal's homecoming in 1896, the last in his life, was his saddest return to his beloved native land. He knew he was facing the supreme test, which might mean the sacrifice of his life, but he was unafraid. The trial that was held shortly after Rizal's homecoming was one of history's mockeries of justice. On October 6, 1896, Tuesday, Rizal left Barcelona. Rizal conscientiously recorded the events on his diary. He was given a second-class cabin on the transport ship to Colon. Confiscation of Rizal's diary. The Spanish authorities who were on board Colon knew that Rizal had been keeping track of daily events in the ship on his diary. They were curious and their suspicions was aroused, for they were fearful that Rizal might be writing something seditious or treasonable. The Spanish authorities did not find anything incriminating in Rizal's diary. The diary was be returned to Rizal on the 2nd November. On October 11, 1896, a friendly officer told Rizal that the Madrid newspaper were full of stories about the bloody revolution in the Philippines and were blaming him for it. On October 11, 1896, before reaching Port Said, Rizal's diary was taken away and was critically scrutinized by the authorities. On, on November 2, 1896, the diary was returned to Rizal. Attorney Halford, an English lawyer in Singapore, He, his friends Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor and Sixto Lopez dispatched frantic telegrams on an English lawyer named Halford to rescue Rizal from the Spanish steamer when it reached Singapore by means of writing of habeas corpus. Chief Justice Chief Justice Lionel Cox denied the right on the ground that Colon was carrying Spanish troops. Based on my research, Chief Justice Lionel Cox, or William Henry, was a British lawyer and judge. He served as Chief Justice the Straits settlements in the late 19th and early 20th century. On November 3, 1896, the Colon reached Manila, where it was greeted with wild rejoicing by the Spaniards and farers because it brought more reinforcement and military supplies. On November 20, 1896, Dr. Jose Rizal appeared before Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive to answer the charges that have been passed against him. Presented before him were documentary and testimonial evidences. This preliminary investigation lasted for 5 days. Colonel Olive is the same person who led a company of soldiers 5 years earlier to eject the tenants of Calambal in Laguna, among them the Rizal family.
So, there are two kinds of evidence were presented against Rizal, namely documentary and testimonial. So, the documentary consists of 15 exhibits. Number 1 is a letter of Antonio Luna to Mariano Ponce. Number 2 is a letter of Rizal to his family. Number 3 is a letter from Marcelo H. Del Pilar to Diodato Arellano. Number 4, a poem entitled Condeman. Number 5, a letter of Carlos Oliver to an unidentified person dated Barcelona. 6, a Masonic document. Number 7, a letter signed Dimasalang, Rizal's pseudonym to Tendo Juan Zolgata's pseudonym. So number 8 is a letter of Dimasalang to an identified committee. Number 9, an anonymous and undated letter to the editor of the Hong Kong Telegraph. 10, a letter of Ildefonso Laurel to Rizal. 11, a letter of Ildefonso Laurel to Rizal. 12, a letter of Marcelo H. Del Pilar to Don Juan A. Tendog. 14, the transcript of a speech of Tic-Tac Jose Toriano Santiago. 15, a poem by Laong Laan, Rizal, entitled Atalisa, in which the author makes the Dapitan schoolboys think that they know how to fight the right. So, the testimonial evidence consists of the oral testimonies of Martin Constantino, Aguedo del Rosario, Jose Reyes, and Martin Salvador, Jose Dizon, Domingo Franco, Diodato Arellano, Ambrosio Salvador, Pedro Serrano, Lactao, Dr. Q. Valenzuela, Antonio Salazar, Francesco Quizon, and Timoteo Paez. So, on November 26, 1896, after the preliminary investigation, Colonel Olive transmitted the record of the case to Governor Dominguez. This is a special judge advocate to institute the corresponding actions against Rizal. So, after studying the papers of Judge Advocate General Don Nicolas de la Peña, he submitted the following recommendations against Rizal. Number 1, the accused be immediately brought to trial. Number 2, he should be kept in prison. Number 3, an order of attachment be issued against his property to the amount of 1 million pesos as indemnity. He should be defended in court by an officer, not by a civilian lawyer. So the only rights given to Rizal is to choose his defense counsel. So on December 8, 1896, first day of the Immaculate Conception, a list of 100 first and second lieutenants of the function was presented to Rizal. Don Luis Taviel de Andrade, the first lieutenant of the artillery, chosen by Rizal to defend him. So, first lieutenant of the artillery is a brother of Lieutenant Jose Taviel de Andrade, Rizal's bodyguard in Calamba in 1887. December 11, 1896, the information of charges was formally read to Rizal in his presence with his counsel present. Rizal was accused of being the principal organizer and the living soul of the Philippine insurrection. the founder of societies, periodicals, and books dedicated to fomenting propagating ideas of religion. December 13, 1896, Domingos forwarded the papers of Rizal case to Malacanang Palace. December 15, 1896, Rizal wrote the manifesto to his people in his presence at Fort Santiago, appealing to them to stop the necessary shedding of blood and to achieve their life peace by means of education. So December 5 is a Christmas Day, a dark and cheerless Christmas for Rizal. His last on earth was the saddest in Rizal's life. December 26, 1896, at exactly 8 a.m., the court-martial of Rizal started in the military building called Cuartel de España. Lieutenant Colonel Tagores Arjona considered the trial over and ordered the whole cleared. After a short deliberation, the military court unanimously voted for a sentence of death against Rizal. So, December 28, 1896, Polavia approved the decision of the court-martial and ordered Rizal to be shot at 7 in the morning of December 30 at Bagumbayan Field, Luneta. So, mark your doom at Bagumbayan. After the court-martial, Rizal returned to his cell in Fort Santiago to prepare his rendezvous with destiny during his last 24 hours on earth. From 6 a.m. December 20 to 6 a.m. December 30, 1896. He was busy meeting visitors. So Santiago Matay is a Spanish news correspondent who interviewed Rizal on his last day. So December 30 is the death anniversary of our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal.
Good morning, everyone. To continue our topic, let's talk about the last hours of Rizal. On December 29, 1896, at 6 in the morning, Captain Rafael Dominguez, who was designated by the Governor-General Camilo Polavieja to take charge of all the arrangements for the execution of the condemned prisoner via the death sentence to Rizal, to be, on December 30, 1896, shot at the back by a firing squad at 7 a.m. in Bagumbayan. At 7 a.m., Rizal was moved to the prison chapel where he spent his last moments. His first visitors were Father Miguel Cetera Mata, who is the rector of Ateneo Municipal, and the Jesuit teacher Father Luis Visa. At about 7:15 a.m., Rizal, in a jovial mood, reminded Father Visa of the statuette of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which he had carved with his penknife as an Ateneo student. Father Visa got the statuette and gave it to Rizal. The hero happily received it and put it on his writing table. At 8 a.m., Father Antonio Rizal arrived. Rizal invited him for breakfast, which he did not refuse. After breakfast, the defense counsel of Rizal, who is Lieutenant Luis Tavia de Andrade, came, and Rizal thanked him for his gallant services. At 9 a.m., Father Federico Fara arrived. Rizal reminded him that he said that Rizal would someday lose his head for writing the Noli. Rizal told him, "Father, you are indeed a prophet." And at 10 a.m., Father Jose Villaclara, who is the teacher of Rizal at the Ateneo, and Vicente Balaguer, the Jesuit missionary in Dapitan, who had befriended Rizal during the latter's exile, visited the hero. After them, the Spanish journalist Santiago Matay came to interview Rizal for his newspaper El Heraldo de Madrid. At 12 noon to 3:30 p.m., it is the time when Rizal was left alone in his cell. He took lunch, after which he was busy writing. It was probably during this time when he finished his farewell poem and hid it inside his alcohol cooking stove, which was given to him as a gift by Paz Pardo de Tavera, who is a wife of Juan Luna, during his visit to Paris in 1890. At the same time, he wrote his last letter to Professor Blumentritt in German. At 3:30 p.m., Father Balaguer returned to Fort Santiago and discussed with Rizal about his retraction of the anti-Catholic ideas in his writings and membership in Masonry. Doña Chidora the mother of Jose Rizal, arrived at 4 p.m. Rizal knelt down before her and kissed her hands, begging her to forgive him. Trinidad entered the cell to fetch her mother, and as they were leaving, Rizal gave Trinidad the alcohol cooking stove, whispering her in English, "There is something inside." And this something was Rizal's farewell poem. After the departure of Danya Chidara and Trinidad, Fathers Villa Clara and Stanislao March entered the cell, followed by Father Rizal. And by 6 p.m., Rizal received a new visitor, the Dean of the Manila Cathedral, Don Silvino Lopez Tuñon. And at 8 p.m., Rizal had his last supper. He informed Captain Dominguez, who was with him, that he forgave his enemies, including the military judges who condemned him to death. And at 9:30 p.m., Rizal was visited by the Fiscal of the Royal Audiencia of Manila, who is Don Gaspar Sistanio. As a gracious host, Rizal offered him the best chair in the cell, and after a pleasant conversation, the Fiscal left with a good impression of Rizal's intelligence and noble character. And by 10 p.m., the draft of the retraction sent by the anti-Filipino Archbishop Bernardino Nozeleda was submitted by Father Balaguer to Rizal for signature, but the hero rejected it because it was too long and he did not like it. On the next days, the last day of Rizal here on earth, on December 30, 1896, at 3 a.m., Rizal heard Mass, confessed his sins, and took Holy Communion. And at about 5:30 a.m., Rizal took his last breakfast. After breakfast, he wrote 2 letters which he addressed to first is to his family and second is to his older brother Pasiano Rizal. And also this time, Josephine Bracken, accompanied by the sister of Rizal, who is Josefa, arrived. Josephine, with tears in her eyes, bade him farewell. Rizal embraced her for the last time before she left, and Rizal gave her a last gift, a religious book, Imitation of Christ, by Father Tomas A. Kempis. And at about 6 a.m., Rizal wrote his last letter to his beloved family as the soldiers were getting ready for the death march to Bagong Bayan. And by 6:30 a.m., a trumpet sounded at Fort Santiago, a signal to begin the death march to Bagong Bayan. Rizal was dressed elegantly in black suit, black derby hat, black shoes, white shirt, and black tie. Rizal was tied behind from elbow to elbow, but the rope was quite loose to give his arms freedom of movement. Dr. Felipe Ruiz Castillo, who is a Spanish military physician, asked Rizal permission to feel his pulse and was amazed to find it normal, showing that Rizal was not afraid to die. And the last hour, at 7:03 a.m., the 35 years, 5 months, and 11 days old Rizal died in a bloom of manhood. Immediately after Rizal's execution, the Spanish spectators shouted, "Viva España! Muerte a los traidores!" which means, "Long live Spain! Death to the traitors!" And the Spanish military band, joining the jubilance over Rizal's death, played the gay Marcha de Cádiz. Mi Último Adios, the Last Farewell, is a farewell poem of Rizal that originally was without title and wasn't signed, but Father Mariano de Canay, the Filipino priest patriot, gave title The Ultimo Adios, and under such title the poem was published for the first time in La Independencia, the General Antonio Luna's newspaper, on October 25, 1898. By Rizal's writings, which awakened Filipino nationalism and paved the way for the Philippine Revolution, he proved that pen is mightier than the sword. Consumatum est. Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a great day and God bless us all.